This week we're over to the Netherlands to talk about online marketing with Maurice Hissink of Music Mindset. This is Anyone Can Play Guitar, the podcast for musicians and music lovers that takes you behind the scenes of the music industry. This week is brought to you in partnership with MGR Music. Ever wanted to learn an instrument, hone your skills, or pick up something completely new? You can get so far by yourself, however professional guidance can make all the difference. With a network of tutors right across the UK and rates starting from as little as £15 per hour, visit mgrmusic.com now to get started. Hello and welcome to episode 68 for our full interview with Maurice Hissink. With me, James, and him,
Ben. This week, James, we're talking to Maurice Hissink about music marketing, social media, a bit of feedback and sharing your story. Last week, though, James, we were talking to fickle friends at Northumbria University. Here's a little clip.
There's a couple of lecturers being like, no, I didn't like it for this reason or for this reason. It's just a load of rubbish, really, because
It's just someone's opinion,
it's just someone's opinion, yeah.
good episode last week and another very good interview. Maurice, YouTube certified.
Certified, yeah.
Knows his way around social media. Love it or hate it, Ben, social media is a thing.
It's definitely a thing. I've heard it's going to be popular.
Well, I think it's already got there.
I think it has.
But, like I say, Maurice, this is what he does.
I'm very good at it.
Yeah, he knows how to, but not just how to promote yourself online. He understands what's important in terms of, setting yourself goals, targets, structuring a sort of program of how to get yourself out there. So loads of really useful stuff.
Yeah. And as we see, he's from the Netherlands. That's an interesting fact. I like the widespread we're getting of our guests.
Yes, absolutely. Global show, Ben.
Global show, indeed.
So they can find Maurice at his website, which is music-mindset.com.
They can.
Loads of useful stuff on the website, as well as contact information. If you want to go down the social media route, which is quite apt for speaking to Maurice,
It would be.
find him on Twitter at _music_mindset.
Who had music mindset before him, I do not know. But those little cheeky underscores.
Breaks it up nicely.
It does, though. It does look nice.
And on Instagram, music-mindset.
You love a hyphen. Thank yous this week, James, before we get started.
Well, thanking the man himself,
Yeah.
Maurice. It was, had quite a good conversation, quite a lengthy conversation. Really great guy, passionate about music. Big thanks to Maurice. Enjoy the show. Remember, a great way to support the show is to go on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and a review. It really does make a massive difference for the show. Now, on with the episode.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here, James.
Brilliant. No, it's great to have you on. So, you're over in the Netherlands. How's it over there at the moment?
Yeah, it's very dark and still warm, even if it's November.
Well, we can match you on dark over here in England, and I think warm. Yeah, it's not too bad for the time of year. Actually, I think it would be fair to say. We do have fireworks going off at the moment. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
Do you have the same thing over there?
No, not at this moment. We have it sometimes when there's something special, but at this moment, as far as I know, there's nothing really special going on in the Netherlands.
All right.
Sounds boring.
Well, we have our Guy Fawkes sort of tradition, which was actually yesterday, but it seems to be more of a week-long thing these days. So
Great to hear.
Right. Anyway, so great to have you on. So to kick off, just for our listeners, if you want to give a bit of a background, introduce yourself, who you are, and what's your sort of career and background in music been?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing because I started out as a musician in a small band. You know how things go. If you're young and you listen to a lot of music, then you get that feeling that I want to do the same. I want to achieve the same as the musicians that I'm listening to. So then you find some like-minded people, and then you start a band. You choose an instrument just because sometimes.
What
Uh,
was yours that you chose?
well, I was playing the keyboard, actually an organ, but that's something that I rather forget sometimes. Well, because that was the only instrument that we had at home. And it wasn't bad, but I learned a couple of chords on that. But when I started the band, we had the idea that I would play the bass. And we have a band here in the Netherlands that has somewhat the same style of music as the Police.
Okay.
So a bit of ska, reggae influenced. So I was pretty happy with that because I imagined that there was a lot of bass work that I could do. So yeah, I started with the bass, and yeah, it was a band with some young people, and it was
Yeah.
fun. Let's keep it at that. We didn't really make a lot of music, but it was fun to do. We learned a lot, and yeah, that is where it started to dawn on me that it's not only about making the music, but also about getting the music out there. Especially when I started to create my own music,
Yeah.
and then it became like, okay, well, now I have a couple of songs. At least I thought they were song-like structures. And okay, what am I gonna do with this? Okay, I can put this on CD, and then what? Who's gonna listen to that? Where am I gonna find my audience? So I actually went to a local CD shop, one of those alternative CD shops that
Okay. Yeah.
that also promote local bands. And I have to be honest, the guy was nice, but also honest. Like this is probably not going to do much here
Yeah.
in my store. It's not song structured enough yet. So that was kind of a wake up call. I wasn't too sad about it, but it also made me think like, okay, there's a lot more to it to get your music out there. So and then I found the internet, so to speak, and the more I searched around there, it was the time when SoundCloud started to become something. And yeah, that was the time when I know that it was more interesting to make some good marketing strategies than to make music, at least for
Okay.
me.
Yeah. No, such a common problem, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I also noticed that uh, when I was just surfing some different platforms and looking for bands that had the same the same kind of music or something like that. When I started on SoundCloud, I found a couple of musicians that were also kind of trying to get at least something that sounded like music, and also trying to get it out there in the world. And there were a lot of things that I found difficult in a way that I didn't really imagine. And I heard that a lot of musicians stumbled upon the same problems, especially when you're a super beginner and you know nothing about the whole music world out there.
And I think that leads quite well into one of the first things that I wanted to speak to you about, because, like you say, it's particularly today, compared to when the two of us were sort of making music. It's relatively easy to get some music recorded in some way,
Hmm.
shape, or form. But then
Yes.
suddenly you're hit with the how do I then, get my music out there?
Yeah.
Whatever out there might actually mean. So where do you see, you sort of alluded there to some of the sort of challenges. What do you see as the most common challenges that people are instantly hit with when they've got some music and they're presented with the challenge of, I now want the whole world to know about this? What's the challenges they face, and where do they often go wrong, even at that very first point before they've even started doing anything?
Yeah. Well, actually, there are a lot of things that I see happening, but one of the main things that are probably, I have to be honest, also relatable, but are probably the most problematic things that beginner musicians do, is to just do nothing. They just put their music online and they just sit and wait. Like, I'm probably going to be discovered, and I'm going to be famous because my music is online, and who doesn't? Everybody can find my music. So that's one group of people, and the other group of people is the people that want you to listen to their music. So they contact you especially with DMs or sometimes even with email, and they send a link to a YouTube song or a SoundCloud track or whatnot, and you have to listen to that song because the way they present it, it's the next best thing. And I'm like, well, I don't know you, I don't know your music, I have absolutely no clue what to expect. Why do you think I would be your ideal fan? Is it just like throwing stuff against the wall and see what sticks, or is I don't know.
Yeah, and potentially I've got another 100 DMs from other people who have all sent me something extremely similar. So why yours above everyone else's?
Yeah, exactly. And the strange thing is, there are in that group that sends out their music, you also have a group of people that are actually good. They're actually really professional and good, and they still use the practice of just randomly sending out messages to people that keep sending me music that I just didn't ask for that.
Yeah, and that's, I guess that's a bad interaction to start with, because
exactly.
There could be some people who will be quite happy and say, all right, great, I've got some music that I didn't previously have, and that's great. But you're right, for a lot of people, it'll very quickly just feel like spam and something they don't want.
Yeah, and the thing is that, and I tried it out with a couple of musicians just to respond back and to be as honest as possible. And I mean, if it's not good, I try to be as honest as possible. I'm not going to tell somebody that he's super bad, but I'm probably going to say something like, maybe you have to work on this or you have to work on that, and it will be even more better, or something like that, you know. I don't want to burst their bubble, especially when they're just starting out. But if they are good and you start a conversation, then you hear a lot of people saying that's it. That's their whole strategy of getting new people. And then they also complain that nobody listens to their music, or nobody sticks, or they don't have any Facebook fans, or they don't have any Twitter followers. And you go to their Twitter and they are following 10,000 people and they have 100 followers or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the strange thing that. And the more I worked with clients, I noticed that it's not always something that they do on purpose. It's more they tried it out and it worked maybe the first time on accident or something like that, and they just keep doing that because they just simply have no clue what to do else.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That it's just, well, I don't know any other way, right? We spoke about, you pick up an instrument for the first time, you get some songs together, and it might be, if you really happen to be good at this, you write some brilliant songs. Now, chances are, if you're great at writing songs, what you might not be good at is developing a marketing strategy.
Yeah, because that's a whole different beast.
A different skill set, right?
Absolutely. And they sometimes have those stories about some friends of them or other musicians that are already made it, and they kind of grasp one small part of that story, and they see that as, okay, well, he did this, then probably when I do this, I will become as famous as he did. And that is, I can imagine that you want to think about it like that, but I'm sometimes a little bit surprised that when I see somebody that is like 14 years old and he thinks that, okay, if I dress the same as Justin Bieber, I will maybe become as famous as then it's okay. But if you're like, I don't know, 30, 40 or 50, I don't know, you still believe in that? You still see that as that's going to be the thing?
Yeah, no, I hear where you're coming from. So I think that makes sense, that we've got a position with artists, and a lot of what they're doing is they're sending direct messages out to people via whatever platforms they have available, and they're doing that essentially in absence of knowing where else to turn. There's no real thought, plan, or strategy behind it.
No,
It's just,
absolutely not.
I know I can do this, and
Yeah.
and therefore they do it. And so that's the one of the main challenges. So that makes sense. So if some of our listeners have sort of either been in that position in the past, or potentially, or even sort of fallen into that trap at the moment because they don't know where to go, conscious that it won't be a one size fits all solution and approach for everyone. So what are the types of approaches that musicians can start to think about? So what are the alternative options that they may not be aware of?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, and this is something, there are like two things. There are the position that you start at, that you want to have perfectly clear, and the position that you kind of want to go to. And I don't mean you want to be instant famous, that is like a goal that is too vague actually. But what do you want to achieve? Do you want to achieve, do you want to have more fans, or do you want to promote a new album, or do you want to just become known for the musician that you are? That is probably the first thing that musicians need to maybe even write down, and it will really help you setting up a strategy, because just like you said, there's no really one size fits all. There are a lot of things that they can have as a goal. So if you know where you are at this moment, and if you know where you want to go, then it already makes the trip a little bit more clear, but also a little bit more easy. And one of the things that they can do is to at least start with realizing that the music market is pretty saturated. There are a lot of musicians probably doing somewhat the same, even though you think it's a different style or a different style of music. They're probably doing somewhat the same, and they also want to get heard. So you need to be consistent enough with promoting your music in not a spammy way, but just being self-conscious and self-aware, and just present yourself as a musician, and at least start with that. I am a musician, this is my music. If you want to listen to it, you can go here, here, and here, and have that as a starting point. And don't expect magic to happen, like fame the next week, or that you become that's some promoter finds you and wants to help you make thousands of dollars. That's what we all want, but that's not how it works. So that is something that especially beginner musicians should really realize when they are starting out.
Yeah, I like the point on being clear on your goals and objectives to start with, because I'd imagine the approach that you take to marketing, promoting yourself could likely be very different depending on what those goals are. So if I was a band or a musician and I was currently getting about 50 odd people to my gigs and my shows, and I want to get that to being 100, that might be very different to a band who's even on the same sort of subject playing currently to 200, 300 people, and they want to get that to 500, or for example, versus if you're launching your first single versus you've got a large back catalogue and you're about to release yet another one.
Exactly. And all the things that you do in your marketing strategy kind of tie in with that. I mean, there are a lot of musicians, especially younger musicians, not per se, but I see it in a lot of strategies that some younger musicians use. For example, on YouTube or Instagram, they have the social media like in their fingers. I mean, I don't know what year you are from, but I'm kind of from the 80s, from the 90s, beginning 90s. So I didn't grow up with internet. Internet was something that just happened when I was older. But they are they grown up with this, with the whole internet thing, so they know how it works, and they know how they can create content, and they do it like super easy. They grab a phone and they just hit record, they play some songs, they put it on YouTube, and they get a couple of followers. And that is a power that they have, and that works for them. But that might not be the thing that works for, I don't know, jazz musician, for example, that is like, well, I play in bars and I have absolutely no clue how to create a YouTube video, and probably nobody that is part of my audience is going to watch a video on YouTube. So you have to match the strategy that you want to use to the audience that you already have.
Yeah, particularly so when Ben and myself were in our band, the I guess showing our age as well, it was more that the internet was just, or particularly social media was just becoming a thing, or the first iterations, and it was things like MySpace were sort of just coming around, and that was the sort of era that we were doing things in. And again, straight on there, we had no strategy. It was just add people, add people, add people, add people. And we sort of maybe evolved it a little bit and trying to get sort of some feedback from people. But so based on what you've just said there, Maurice, so a lot of people, even if you do understand the technology and you can create a short snippet or something on Instagram or whatever it might be, going back to the goal setting, what could be some of the, I guess, the pros and cons of instantly releasing some content? Because just because you can, I guess, doesn't mean necessarily that you should straight away.
No, that's right. That's something. Well, you should be putting out content that, and that is what I see that younger people do a lot. They try to share everything that they do. So, and I'm not sure if it's kind of if it's something that they plan to do, or if it's something that is just in their nature. Maybe I'm generalizing here. I'm not really sure, but we're just going to go with it. I see that a lot of younger people just have the ability to share anything that they do. So the positive thing with that is that they entice people that they are working on something. They share a small riff that they are working on. They share some new gear that they have bought and that will be used in an upcoming album. So with that, they entice people to keep in touch, to go to their platform, to YouTube or Instagram or whatnot, and check their profile and see what is going on with the gear. So what is going on with that lick that you played? Is it becoming a song yet? So they do it so naturally that it becomes interesting enough for a lot of people to see where the whole story goes. As for a lot of other people, a lot of other musicians, if you come from an era that all the gear that you had needed to be set up, for example, you couldn't record something within 15 minutes. That was not possible. If you had a computer in the 80s, then it would take probably 50 minutes for it to boot up.
Yeah.
So that was something. Things took more time. So maybe, like I said, maybe I'm generalizing, but it's something that the way I see it, I see a lot of musicians from my age do that. They overthink a little bit before they post something. So it's like, is the camera right? Do I have to post it like this? What is the story that I want to tell? There is a lot more involved in the whole content creating process. So when they share something, it's sometimes high quality, that's okay, but they don't have the time or the ideas to create content as quickly and as often as the younger generation does. So that is something, and it's not always like that. There are a lot of people that also adapted quite well to the whole internet era, and they managed to work that in. There are a lot of musicians from the 70s and from the 80s that are really good at the social media thing. So, but they have the benefit that they are already known. So if they pop up on Twitter, then they probably have like instant thousands of followers. So that's a whole different beast.
Yeah, and that makes sense in terms of the small sort of snippets and enticing people and just that instant ability to do something. Because I liked your point about, for some things, and if it is just a small snippet of here's this guitar lick, then perhaps the camera angle and the background and the scene and all of the rest of it is less important. It's just,
exactly.
Here's just a 30-second snippet, and
Yeah.
it will take 30 seconds to do, as opposed
Yeah.
to other things. Yeah, no, that makes sense, which again ties back to what is your goal, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it can, in my opinion, it can work for everybody. Even a jazz guitar player can be like, okay, this is my new amp, and I'm gonna play just a snippet of my new album, and just be sure to check it out. When I think it works. It's just something that is a very positive thing, and that's also the power of social media. The downside might be that if you look at it from an audience perspective, they will get thousands of snippets
Yeah.
during the day, and so then the next challenge will then be, how will you stand out from all of those small snippets? Will it then be more interesting to have just one good video once a week, something like that? So yeah, like you said, it's something that needs to be thought of if you start with a strategy, and it depends on the goal that you want to achieve.
This week is brought to you in partnership with MGR Music. Ever wanted to learn an instrument, hone your skills, or pick up something completely new? You can get so far by yourself, however professional guidance can make all the difference. With a network of tutors right across the UK and rates starting from as little as £15 per hour, visit mgrmusic.com now to get started.
Now it's time for our regular good cause slot. This week it's over to Maurice.
Yeah, well, I would like to give a shout out to the Clini Clowns. They help children that are they're probably not going to make it, terminally ill, and those clowns help to lighten the day of the patients, and they do a really good job. It's a really difficult job. I to be honest, I wanted to be a Clini Clown for a couple of years, and it's so difficult because it's just very difficult to see children that are probably not gonna reach the age of maturity.
Yeah.
And they're never gonna reach their goals. So you, as the clown, are there to at least enlighten the days that are left, or the weeks that are left. So I think they do a really good job, and I think they're probably one of the main big charity things that have a positive twist on, well, life in general.
For our Dutch listeners, you can find out more at cliniclowns.nl. That is CLINI clowns.nl. The website is in Dutch, however there are similar initiatives across the world, so a quick internet search and you should find out more information if something near you. Now, on with the episode.
So let's move on to what I won't ask, because it would probably be a little unfair, is the how do you make yourself stand out? I mean, you've touched on there. A lot of people will be doing the same things. Here's lots of snippets, you know. So there's an element of what makes you unique and why would somebody listen to yours above others. But you gave an example there of a frequency of post. What are the other types of things that artists might think about that may help them stand out from the crowd, I guess?
Well, to be honest, the really thing that you should focus on as a musician, or maybe even as any artist that you are, if you are a painter or a photographer, it doesn't really matter. The main thing that you should focus on is being yourself as much as possible. So creating music the way you want to create music, because that is, in the end, at least in my opinion, in the end, that will be the part that stands out the most. It's not going to be the lick. It's not going to be your gear or your clothes or whatnot. It will only be that lick or that guitar or whatnot if you, as an artist behind it, makes it something special. So, I mean, you can give everybody 5 different colors and some pencils and create something with that, and everybody will create something different. And if everybody creates the same thing, then nobody will stand out. But the one that stands out can sometimes even be the person in the field of like if everybody created a painting with all the colors used, and there's one person that stands out because he only used the blue dot and he put that on in the middle of the canvas, and that's it. And he stands out because he sees what goes on around him, but he also knows for himself that that's the only thing that he wants to share. If this is the stories that people are telling around me, this is the story that I want to tell. So it's the same with music. If you feel that you can stand out because you have something else to say, and you feel that you stand out in the crowd, then I believe that you should use that to sort of market yourself. And that is probably going to be the best thing. Not really the marketing strategy per se, but more being you as much as possible.
Yeah, well, anyone can sort of play your songs, I guess, or do a guitar lick, but nobody can be you, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe that, and this is actually an interesting part because I worked with youth years ago, and I always found the most fascinating persons in the group are the ones that, in some cases, are the ones that, for example, are actually bullied or set aside by other groups or whatnot. They sometimes seem to have a lot of creative ideas, and that is why a lot of mainstream groups don't want them because they are not mainstream. But they seem to have some sort of power. I think the power of the underdog. I think that's something that can really help you stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, so don't shy away almost from who you are. Well,
absolutely not.
And that makes sense. You know, if we're talking about standing out from the crowd, then you need to be different to do that.
Yes, exactly.
And I guess growing up, you know, there's an element of if you are different from everyone, that can be a challenge growing up, particularly in a school environment.
Yeah, it is.
But then suddenly, when you come into the music world, suddenly being different is a massive enabler.
Yes, exactly. If you're an artist, a lot of artists have that special thing, and sometimes you hear people say like, well, he was a strange kid in school, or he had almost no friends, or he was always in his creating his own world and that stuff. Those are in most cases the most creative people because they don't follow the mainstream. They have a different vision on the world, and hopefully it's the most positive vision that they have. But even if it's kind of a negative, they have still some creativity that they will share, even in some. You probably have heard some songs that are really emotional and really touching, and they're telling a story from a dark past that somebody had, and those are the songs that can do pretty well. And it's not really selling your dark past to make it in something profitable, not per se, but you're throwing it out in the open and you're being yourself. You're just putting yourself out there and you're telling the world, this is me and this is what I want to share with you, and I hope I find like-minded people that I can kind of motivate with that or inspire with that. And I think that is probably the most powerful thing that artists can do, that musicians can do.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and I'd imagine it may be hard in some instances to share for some people who have that a certain personality or background, you know, versus you're talking about a lot of the youth. It almost becomes second nature for some people to just, I don't really care, doesn't matter what I'm doing, I'll just post whatever, whether it's audio, pictures, whatever. But for some people, that could be quite a leap, I imagine, for some people to do that and that to be natural for them.
Yeah, it is. And I always see it as, for example, if we're just going to be like very generalized here, like there's some person that has the latest gear, all that shiny gear, and he knows, or he or she knows how to play super well, and he's playing something, and you hear the notes, you hear a melody, and it sounds good, but it doesn't really stick with you, and it doesn't really touch you emotionally. And then you have someone that is sitting in a dark bedroom, on the side of his bed or her bed, and she's singing a song that's not really, key isn't really right, the guitar isn't really tuned with the story that she's telling. That just hits you. It's you feel a tear coming up in your eye. You know that, and it's like a 1 minute song. It's not really finished and all that, and with just a small text of it's almost finished. Just wanted to share that with you. I think that is 1,000 times more valuable than the polished song that was.
Yeah.
But it's also, like you said, it's also a bigger leap that the person needs to take in order to become more successful as an artist, if that would be the goal, for example.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that's a really good and powerful point. So if we get our musicians here and they've got to the point where they're sort of willing to share, and whether it's the 1 minute example there, whether it's the 30-second snippet, whether it's a much longer polished thing, whatever, fitting in with their goals that they want to achieve. I guess the next question that often crops up is how and where. So there'll be the obvious YouTubes, Twitters, Instagrams, Facebooks that we've just mentioned, and pros and cons to all of those. So there's a minefield straight away for artists in terms of, right, do I need to put it everywhere? Do I focus on one? Why is this one better than the other? So what are the types of things that musicians might want to consider?
Yeah, that's a good question, because there are a lot of things that you can choose from. Like you mentioned before, MySpace was a thing for musicians or artists years ago. Now social media platforms are just social media platforms, and you can be anyone on any social media platform. There are some platforms like SoundCloud, which is not really a social media platform. It's more of a streaming platform where you can have the occasional chat or comment on your music, and then you have Reverb Nation and all that stuff. But in my opinion, I would go for the easiest platform that you can work with, and the platform that you that's something that you have to find out that your audience might be on. So just go on Facebook and Twitter, for example, or Facebook and Instagram. Just pick 2 or 3 platforms that are really big, major platforms, and try to find not only similar music to your music, because that will also help you find the audience. The people that are following those accounts are probably also interested in your music. But then you start just doing nothing, not following everybody that is following that artist. That's a tactic, but probably not the best one. Just see what happens. See what the musician that kind of so-called resembles you, or maybe you want to be like him or her in the end. See what he or she is posting, and try to mimic that. Try to do the same thing. Try to talk about gear if he's talking about gear, and if the audience loves that, try to talk about your gear. Try to talk about, and just build up from there. And not only will it help you to become more familiar with the platform, but it will also help you to start sharing things that concern you. So that would be the first step. And if you combine that with sharing other stuff from other people and other musicians, because you don't want it to be a one-man show, if you share stuff that other people, for example, if you have fellow musicians, then you can share their music as well. If you have some interesting music news or news that you want to talk about on your platform, then you can share that as well, as long as it matches you as the musician. So if you start sharing what you have had for dinner 2 days ago, then you might want to reconsider your strategy, because people are going to be like, well, I don't care. You had breakfast. Everybody had breakfast. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
So that's something that you might want to avoid.
Yeah. I think if you're talking about there, I like the idea of just observing what similar types of artists who are maybe slightly further down the road and a little bit more successful than you, see what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'd imagine
if they are, say, posting a picture of their breakfast and that's getting a lot of interest, and that helps then build on to, letting them know a little bit more about you as an artist, which can then sort of get more people interested for when you do post the guitar lick or whatever it might be, then that could work. But equally, if people are posting pictures of food and nobody's interested, then that's an indicator. Or if they're not even doing it at all, then I guess that's all to your point of seeing what other people are doing and what's working.
Yeah, exactly. And that is also why you have to find people that are like the way you mentioned it is really good, a little bit further down the road. Not really at the point of being the Rolling Stones, for example, because probably the Rolling Stones could post anything and people will click like,
Yeah.
they have that status. But you want to find a musician that is just a couple of steps in front of you, that maybe had a couple of live shows, maybe had a couple of albums, and they have an audience that is, say, like 10 times bigger, and see what they're doing and try to mimic that. So you're kind of going into the...
Almost in the slipstream.
Yeah, in the slipstream. So if you do that, then you might also get some traction, because you might see that they are posting about things that are a really hot topic in music. And you can not post the exact same thing, but also post around that topic. So that can be a really great way to grow your audience in a natural way. And that also ties in with the thing that you don't want to have a large audience when you're starting out. It's actually something that, I don't know, it seems that a lot of musicians want to have like 10,000 of followers, but believe me, you don't want to have that. All things that you will start posting if you have 10,000 followers will become so important. You probably can't handle that if you're just starting out. It may sound strange, but that's just the way it is.
Okay, so are you coming at that from the angle of everything would then have orders of magnitude more pressure and focus at a point where you could really just do without that level of sort of scrutiny?
Yeah, you will. It will have the amount of pressure that you're not fit for. It's the same as you can't run a marathon if the only thing that you have done the last couple of weeks is walking your dog. That doesn't really add up. So you have to go to the whole process, and you have to walk the full road to see how things are working. You have to fall down a couple of times. You have to hit your head a couple of times and see how you can crawl back from that and try again and try something different and try something new. If somebody would give you 100,000 subscribers on YouTube instantly, and I mean active subscribers, that would be a lot of pressure. They'd probably behead you the first video that you put on there, because there was so many comments, and you never had a comment, and suddenly you have a lot of comments telling you that you're ugly and that you're worthless and whatnot, and you shouldn't be making videos or be making music. So you have to grow into that. It's a process, and you have to just take baby steps in the whole process.
Yeah, it's an angle I'd not given much thought about, but that makes sense. If someone did say, look, pay me X amount of money and I'll guarantee that you can have X amount of thousands of followers on whatever platform, then what tends to happen from experience is that very, very few artists will write absolutely brilliant music on day one.
Yes.
So that makes sense that you need to go through that journey. One of the things that you mentioned early on when you took your music to that record store, it's far easier to get some brutal, harsh, maybe fair, but harsh feedback from one person to learn from and become more resilient than it is to get that from a wave of thousands of people.
Exactly. Because you can process that a little bit better. I remember that I had a strange feeling that I understood the guy. I was like, yeah, you're right. And it was strange because it was my music. But he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, okay, thank you for that. And I went home and was like, okay, I'm totally not ready for this. This is not going to work. But I really hope that there are more musicians that kind of look at them a little bit more sober and a little bit more down to earth. I'm just starting to make music. I have to earn my stripes, so to speak.
That moves on to something else I wanted to ask you about, which is we've talked a lot about social media platforms, which obviously are global things. What might musicians want to think about in their local sort of area? So, for example, the more traditional, maybe old-fashioned strategies, such as I've created a poster and I've put that up around my local area. What sort of place does that more old school type way of promotion sort of sit in today's world?
Well, I think it fits. It can fit right in. It's a dying art probably, because the problem with that is that it's a lot less measurable than online marketing. If you have thousands of followers on Facebook, then you can instantly see who's interacting with you and who's not. And then you can, if you want to market your new album, then you can kind of filter that out. Facebook had thousands of filters that can filter out exactly those 10 people that are most likely to buy your album, and then one will buy your album, and then you're happy.
Yeah.
But in the real world, it's like you put up posters and you print like 1,000 posters and you hang them, and then it's just like, okay, I don't know who's actively looking at it and also interacting with it. Some people might read it and they'll be like, oh, there's a band. I don't know what. I never heard of them. It's gonna be whatever, and they just move on. So you have no control on that. So it's not something that you shouldn't do, but if you want to do it, then you have to be really conscious about where you're going to hang those posters or where you're going to put those flyers. Maybe even contact some local pubs that have bands more regularly, like every week or something like that. That can be a great place to put your poster up there, because the people that are looking at that are probably going to be there next week. So
That makes sense from just the sheer measurability side of things. So interesting when you were talking there about the types of things that are measurable in terms of followers on social media. Or what are the types of measures that musicians might want to pay more attention to over than others? For example, we've spoke before with other people on the show that if I've got 10,000 followers on Twitter, that could be nowhere near as useful as 100 who are really actively engaged and constantly sort of responding to posts. We're having conversations with them, as opposed to an arbitrary large number of people that you never speak to, interact with, won't listen to the music. So what are the types of, I guess, measures, metrics, or ways of looking at how your marketing is working?
Yeah, well, it ties a little bit in with the small baby steps that you have to take. So because you're taking small steps, you also want to just measure small steps that your social plan is making. So if you have one new follower, and it's a follower that also sends you a DM telling you that they listen to your album and they really like your music, that is very valuable, and that is something that you really want to measure. It's also a good thing, if you're still small in terms of numbers, that you have the time and energy to interact with those people, so you can build up strong relationships. So the interaction numbers, so if for example the shares or the comments that you get, the meaningful comments that you get on post, those are going to be the more important metrics. And it doesn't even have to be like the Google Analytics kind of thing, the whole numbers, statistics thing. That becomes interesting if you become bigger. Then you can start with that. You can also start with the Facebook statistics and see what works there. But if you're the absolute beginner, interaction is the most important thing that you should be measuring. So the more shares a post gets, or the more positive comments you get, or meaningful comments you get on a post, those are the things that are valuable. Even if it's like 5 comments on your latest video, it's 5 comments. And not some with a thumbs up or with a fire thing or whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't mean those. The ones that say like, okay, I really like this, or your guitar is a little bit off, but the riff is cool. Those are the things those are also the people that you want to interact with and say a genuine thanks to, because that will help you with your branding. That will help get you out there as a musician, and people will maybe learn to know you as a nice person, at least if that's what you want to go for, hopefully.
Yeah, no, and I like your point about making sure that you do respond to those, and to the ones that are genuine comments. You know, I think
Yes.
we've all seen the sort of token thumbs up, and if you look at that account, they've put a thumbs up to every hundreds of thousands of posts, which is obviously an automated thing that they've got set up.
Probably.
And it's okay, fair enough. But yeah, the actual genuine comments and interactions, making sure that you do spend the time to follow up and interact with.
Yeah, and there are a lot of automated features possible with Facebook and Twitter, or you can get some free software that helps you with your posting schedule. That's all fine. There's not a real problem with that, as long as you keep the real interaction as humanly as possible. So if you don't want to, like you said, you don't want to have automated fires going out just to everybody that comments on your video. That's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So if you automate your post, for example, for the next week or the next month, it's perfectly fine. But just check into Facebook or Twitter and see if somebody reacted on that, and just give an honest response to that. Even if it's a negative comment, you can probably win even more people if you have the ability to react positively on a negative comment than if you just give a generic comment like thank you or whatnot.
Yeah, well, I think there's something in that, being able to take feedback. It's often a tricky thing to do, right? You know,
It is. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Especially if it gets under your skin for some reason.
Yeah.
Some people they just know how to do that. They feel that oh, he's sensible to this. I'm just gonna poke a little bit more.
Yeah. Definitely. And then there's the other instances, I guess, where it's just that's how they felt, and therefore they've given honest reflection, and that might, wind you up, or make you, well, I spent ages on that bit and I was really happy with it, and someone's opinion's their opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And well, if it can even be valuable if somebody is at least kind enough to put a little bit of back information in that. For example, if you have a lot of negative comments telling you that the guitar sounds way too harsh, or your guitar sounds like a screeching cat or whatnot, then there might
maybe it does.
Truth. Yeah, maybe it's true. Maybe you have something wrong with your gear, and that's just something that you might want to look into. So you might turn it into a humorous thing, and thank you for pointing out that your cat is a little bit screechy, and you want to look into that. And the next video, you can maybe tie into that and say, well, okay, I tuned my cat, and now it's singing as, I don't know.
Yeah, make a thing of it, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
No, I like that, embrace it and make something of it, turn a potentially negative into a positive. No.
Yeah, in most cases it will make you a stronger person. I strongly believe that.
Brilliant.
I like that conversation.
Me too.
I liked his point about if you were to just get 1 million followers on social media, like true active followers, in an instant, that could be the end of
too much.
Many artists.
I remember listening to that bit going, yeah, that's like, if you're, let's say, our band all of a sudden got that amount of followers, we could not keep up with that. Because it was just us, wasn't it? There was no team around us.
And that much feedback as well.
Too much. Because Rob would not be able to comprehend that much feedback.
Well, but it's the point of, a lot of those people will like you and enjoy your stuff, but a lot of them will be quite brutal, and
they're the only ones you're going to remember.
And, well, maybe not.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, some very good points from Maurice. Next week, Ben.
Yes, so next week we are hitting Hit the North Festival from last year, 2019.
Pow.
We have 2 interviews coming up in this from this festival. The first one next week with The Blinders, and one later in the episode, which was She Drew the Gun. That's later in the episode, later in the season. So yeah, next week, The Blinders, as I say, he has a little snippet.
I mean, you've got to be tight-knit bunch, man. You've got to be comfortable with the people that you're around, because you're living in each other's pockets 24 hours a day. So.
All of the show notes for today's episode can be found at acpgmusic.com, along with our back catalogue of episodes. If you like what you hear, or perhaps have some improvements or specific guests you'd like us to consider, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at info@acpgmusic.com or hit us up on social media. Keep supporting upcoming artists, and we'll catch you next time.